Hello everybody and a warm welcome to this tiny corner of North Wales, to Anglesey circuit for the latest rounds of the Milltek Sport Civic Cup. Weather conditions, well, fair to middling. Maybe set for some improvement a little bit later on. There was certainly some dampness early on this morning. But we've got a 15-minute qualifying session to look forward to now to organise the grid for round 8 of the championship. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much to all involved for the invitation to come here to Anglesey, because not been part of this championship so far. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm joined, as always, though, by Paul O'Neill, who has been here for the duration so far. So you can tell me the story of the season so far, Paul.
The story of the season so far, basically. Well, in Cup, it's been all about those top three championship protagonists, Camp, Luff and Tonks. They've been out front. The top three run by Area Motorsport. But as you can see, that is Harry Threlfall, and that is a production class runner who is having an absolute whale of a time. He's only 2 points behind the leaver Mervyn Beckett, who we did see in that other yellow Honda Civic a minute ago. So between Cup and production, there are a lot of things going on. The championship's fantastic. It's only getting stronger. It is like a big, big family out on track, all looking after each other. Have you got this? Have you got that? Have you got a spare front light for a Civic EP3 or whatever they're called? And yeah, it's great to see. It's what motorsport's about, and fantastic to come to Anglesey.
Because it's just like a big family that moves from circuit to circuit, and that's the nice thing about the whole season, being back to kind of normal now, where we had to obviously shorten things last year, and brilliant that Anglesey can be part of the calendar. It was, I understand, originally planned to be earlier on in the campaign, but because the rules in this part of the world have been different from England, slightly different from Scotland too, big rule change, just a couple of days ago in Wales, and it means that everything's opened up pretty much back to normal. So great to have 15 minutes of qualifying. The 44 car is one we'll focus on early on, which is Rhys Lewis from the production class. Smart little car that, just heading now down the straight towards Church Corner. You've raced this circuit. It is very, very tricky. I mean, it looks pretty complex on paper, but that doesn't take into account how much it goes up and down as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, as we're looking at it now, that's exactly how the circuit runs. As you can see, that, and like you were just saying about Lewis, it's Rhys Lewis. He's a local lad from not far away. So Welsh driver going up to Rocket, you're just seeing there. But these two corners coming up as the 44, as we keep following that car, these two corners coming up, Rocket, and now into Peel. They are really difficult. Probably third gear corners in these cars as they make the run down to the corkscrew before turning left onto the Tom Price straight. But fantastic circuit, very technical, and a great place to come if you want to do a bit of testing, but even better if you're going to come and race.
Some nice wide curves coming through the left-hander onto the longest section of this particular track. This is known as the International Grand Prix variation of Anglesey. 2.1 miles round the outside there in order to try and get track position went Rhys. So 15 minutes will disappear very, very quickly, because obviously all these cars have had to do an outlap as well, which is the best part of 2 minutes, and they're setting 1 minute 40s. So you're only going to have certain stab at this as we now focus on the number 4 car of Jamie Tonks, who runs in the Cup class. Jamie third in the championship currently, and 26 points off the lead. It is pretty tight between Alistair Camp and Matt Luff. And obviously we'll be focusing on those guys. Matt, interestingly, fastest so far with that 140.906. He's only just done that on lap 2. So Matt meaning business early on in the session.
Yeah, like you say, though, you know, with Luff, Tonks, and also Camp, they really are seeming to be the class of the field. So fair play to them, as we've just seen Harry Threlfall has gone onto pole in the production class with a 46.1. So it's actually great to see, isn't it, the difference in time. So you've got like a 41 dead kind of thing for a pole in Cup at the minute, and a 46 dead on pole for production. So a nice, as he does that, he's gone 8/10 quicker. So it's more or less six seconds faster to be in a Cup car around here. But like you were just saying, Matt Luff, there he is, the pole man at the minute, 40.268. It's a good lap time, that. And these guys, they just seem to be knocking lumps out of each other. But he needs to claw back that 19 points that Camp is up the road with.
an indication on the scoring tower, on the graphics tower there, of where the cars sit in the overall positions as well. So the Threlfall brothers are actually up to 10th and 11th, and therefore ahead of car 176, which is the Cup class for Rob Phillips in the North Wales air conditioning prepared car.
That's sorry to cut across it. It's beautiful that the left rear of that car as it went up the hill just locked the left rear, and a great camera shot just showing you the whole of the car, just probably for, I don't know, 30-40 metres with a right rear or a left rear cocked up in the air and having no rotation in the chassis at all, which is just fantastic to see. These cars have got great chassis. But sorry to cut across, it was just a nice bit. He rolls onto the grass on the exit there of the corkscrew. Amazing stuff.
Also, a guy setting very quick times is Alistair Camp, leading the championship, remember. Visibility here is, if anything, getting a little worse at the moment. But Camp turning the style on. He's got within 3.5 tenths now of Matt Luff. So those are the two guys gunning for the championship, separated by 19 points. And that's a real dogfight at the top of the times, with Tonks in the number 4 car. Jamie Tonks currently third fastest. This place is split into 2 sectors rather than the usual 3, and actually the first sector only takes you just over half a minute to do, whereas the second sector is about double that. So we're going to have to try and keep our eyes certainly on that first sector, but there will be other times that emerge late in the lap that will just pop up there if we're not expecting it. Dave Buki up to 6th place now in the 51 car.
Yeah, Mervyn Beckett, who we're watching there in the 32, he's just gone on to pole in production in the bright yellow car. Great time. That is a second quicker than Threlfall. That's a cracking time, that is.
So at the moment, the top of production is Mervyn Beckett with his 144.5. Then it's Harry Threlfall, who's about a second slower last time around. And, David Baldwin going strongly too. A couple of cars have found each other, one of which is Buki, actually, 6th fastest. Dave Buki, the first of those couple of cars, and 63 is Philip Wright, who runs in the Cup class, allowing a car through there. The other tricky thing with quite a number of cars in this session, Paul, 20 of them I make it, just finding that little bit of clear air here and there is a bit tough, because the last thing you want, coming into the final sequence of corners is traffic. So we may well see 1 or 2 cars just getting out of the throttle, generating that bit of space. But it's almost broken out into a race heading down towards the entrance into the corkscrew. We've got 3 and then another couple more. I mean, this could very easily be the start of the first race for later on, as down towards, I think, leading this little pack is Alistair Camp, yes, in the 45 car, and tucked in at the back, Philip Wright.
Yeah, I was just having a look at Jamie Tonks there, because he'd actually done his best first sector, but then followed it up with a bit of a slower second sector than we've seen him do, so he couldn't really capitalise on that. But it is Matt Luff that is absolutely up the road by 3.5 tenths at the minute, and no one seems to be able to get close. So not a lot going on with the sector times at the minute, but Alistair Camp, who is leading the championship, is needing to find 3.5 tenths to get this on pole and take this away from Luff.
Now, Rob Butler's come in. Does he think that that's just about the best of his tyres now? But these tyres are pretty solid, aren't they? They're groove tyres, so probably not. I'm just wondering whether, he thinks, well, I've done all I can and don't want to risk the car anymore. There's maybe a little bit of flecks of rain on some of our cameras. So if it is starting to get more moist out there, obviously that's not going to help you get a quicker time. Alistair Camp's still pushing hard into the right-hander at Rocket. Rocket's kind of 2 elements of a corner, the uphill approach to the left-hander and then the right-hand hairpin, leading straight into Peel. Those corners are frustratingly slow, but nevertheless they're key to a quick lap time, I'd say. With Mervyn Beckett, 32 car, still fastest. There is a change there, and that is Rhys Lewis gaining 2 places, I make it, now up to 4th place in the production class. So still some time to be had, if you can find it, Paul.
Yeah, it's definitely something about the sea air sometimes can be smashed up against the side of the circuit and onto your windscreen, and that's why you're seeing the mist as they run down to the hairpin. So, yeah, a few cars coming in now, aren't there? So I think there's a couple of things here. There might be that bit of precipitation down there that we can't see, or people are just coming in to check and reset their tyre pressures. So, yeah, it's we've even got Alistair Camp in the championship leader in the pits now. So, Buki's in. There's a few people coming in, even Wright's in as well. So, I reckon a bit of a tyre pressure change, and they'll probably go out for 2 more laps if they can get him in.
Yeah. But they need to be fairly quick about it, because 4 minutes left on the clock, which originally read 15, and 2 minutes, best part of, really, to do an outlap here. There's no option to shortcut your outlap, by the way. That's what I'd do, probably. Sneak through the corkscrew and then straight across the start-finish. But you'll be pinged for that, or at least your lap won't count. I'm not sure whether there'll be a reprimand as such. Whoa, loads of curb there through the kink on the approach to Rocket. And this is Ross Darlington from the Cup class. Now, where's he? 8th fastest so far.
Yeah, but I'm just pointing at the screen, Johnny, because this is his best sector so far. So he's done a 34.894, so it's probably not a bad thing to follow him, as Darlington is definitely going green, green, green. So looking like he's going to look at that left rear locking up as they just go down into the corkscrew. Fantastic. The car loaded up, not using all of the circuit on the exit, which I find a bit odd. Usually the car, especially a front-wheel drive car, will want to push away from that apex and just fight with you as it goes into the hairpin. Nice wide entry, then to get a late apex and drive the car out, straighten up the wheels, get the front axle down with the grip and the traction, and away you go. Last corner coming up. This is going to be very interesting to see what he can do as he comes out of the bus stop. Well,
certainly the body language of Ross's car has been very aggressive for most of this lap, and I'll keep an eye for when Darlington comes across the line in his Civic EP3. It is not an improvement, as it turns out, so he stays on a 142.9 and stays in 8th place. Again, 2 cars dicing for position just to try and get some space in the latter portion of this session, and that's a Cup car from Philip Wright, and the 66 is Alfie Threlfall, currently 5th in class. Again, though, if you're in the wrong place here, as Wright has to jink to the left there to avoid Matthew Stenning's car, the 116, 3 abreast down the Tom Price straight and into the hairpin. So realising that time's slipping through their fingers, they're having to just sort of muscle their way through to find space as a bit of flame spits from the back of Stenning's production class car, or rather, production class car, number 116, and darts to the outside, heading into the bus stop corner, bizarrely, which ends the lap. David Baldwin, he's 2nd in production. What is the gap between Beckett and Baldwin currently? It's a 2nd, I make it. So still a bit of time for Baldwin to find in the closing 90 seconds. And still that pit lane, Paul, has plenty of cars in it.
It has, yeah. It looks like there's a few people that have maybe given up. But, yeah, I think there's not many greens going on, to be fair. I think we've got Baldwin in the production class, the only person I can see. Actually, there's quite a few in the production class who've gone green, so they're just giving it their last lap. But, yeah, I think a lot of the front runners know the score, and they know they're not going to go any quicker.
So we'll watch with interest the final 60 seconds then of this first session of the day. Remember that this will glean 2 separate qualifying times for the grids later on. Your fastest effort that we're talking about, but TSL, the timekeepers today here at Anglesey, will also be making note of the 2nd fastest time of every single car too. And those with long memories will think back to Cadwell Park in a rain-interrupted qualifying session where we had lap times of about 13 minutes, I think, which determined where cars were for the second race. That eventually actually never happened. But we should have produced enough times to give us 2 decent grids for rounds 8 and 9 of the Milltek Sport Civic Cup. A variety of Civic vintages of Civics on display. Forced induction, by the way, is not permitted in this category of racing, but the VTEC engine, very nice and pokey indeed, and ideal, I would have said, for a sort of a point and squirt track like this. There are long straights. Admittedly, that curve that runs from Church all the way into Rocket, you can really let the throttle down to the metal, and then also Tom Price straight as well, open the throttle up nice and wide too. Matt Luff, though, with provisional pole, has decided to come in fairly early on in the session, so there are only 1 or 2 cars that will actually see the checkered flag, out on track. Others will just be informed that the session is coming to a close, and I don't think anybody's going to stop Matt Luff because he has this cushion of 0.358 of a second from Alistair Camp, and they are the championship protagonists. Remember, Camp leading the championship at the moment with a handful of races still to go, and he has this 19-point lead. No extra points for pole position, but nevertheless there are bragging rights to be had between now and the first race of the day. There was rather a slow-moving David Baldwin there, but I think that's just because he was easing things down, having seen the checkered flag. We are still awaiting Alistair Camp to come across the line, and do you know, he's just done the fastest time through the first speed trap, a 111.4 miles per hour. So Alistair Camp has not given up on this just yet, and did obviously sneak an extra lap out of this. So although the finish graphic is displayed at the top of your screen, Alistair Camp not in the pits and potentially on a very quick lap here. Can he find the 0.358 of a second required though to jump ahead? Well, he'll need 0.359 of a second to jump ahead of Matt Luff. I'm still waiting for Alistair Camp to cross the line, and he does so now with, in fact, no improvement. I was building his part there, but in the number 45 Civic EP3, he will have to make do with a front row start, but it'll be on the inside, I think, is how the grid lines up here, to give the outside starter on the front row ideal run into turn one. Never like giving corner names their numbers, but that is actually what the track map reads here at Anglesey. Turn one is the first left-hander before you head into the hairpin right, which is labelled the banking because it is significantly cambered. So Matt Luff finishing ahead of Alistair Camp with Luff's time was a 140.268, his best. Compare that to Alistair Camp, a 140.626, and therefore a difference of 3.5 tenths. In third position, it was Jamie Tonks with a 140.7, and he was ahead of George Alp Williams in the Advanced Fire Technologies racing car, but also Area Motorsport prepared. It just carries that extra bit of backing from Advanced Fire Technologies Racing, and George will find himself on the second row, at least provisionally. All of these times, of course, will have to be okayed by the officials and the organisers of the meeting. There may also be some post-quali scrutineering as well. The third row looking like Robert Butler with his 141.3 alongside Dave Buki in car 51 with a 141.3. Then Philip Wright and Ross Darlington, who at times looked like he might even be capable of a quicker time than that, maybe a top six, but couldn't link the sectors together all in one lap. And Darlington pitted fairly early on, in fact. Ninth position for Philip Wright, and in 10th place to complete that group of cup cars, Simon Waite in the Kinetic Motorsport run car. For the production class, it was Mervyn Beckett who is leading the championship by only 2 points from Alfie Threlfall. So Mervyn takes another pole position for the season, ahead of David Baldwin with a 145.4. And Alfie Threlfall with a little bit of work to do then once we get racing later on today. And we will have, of course, all of the races covered here live. If you think Paul O'Neill's gone a little bit quiet, that's because I've allowed him to exit the commentary box to head to Parc Fermé to congratulate our pole sitters in the individual classes. So we'll be hearing from Matt Luff very shortly, and also Mervyn Beckett. But to mark your card, well, actually, as Alexi was mentioning earlier on, we are slightly behind already, I'm afraid to say. Assuming we get to the lunch break roughly on time, this first Civic Cup race, the Milltek Sports Civic Cup race, was scheduled for a 1 o'clock start and a 15-minute race just before lunch. And then there'll be a Goodyear Touring Car Trophy race after the lunch break at 1:45 for 20 minutes. The second Milltek Sport Civic Cup race is due to start at 20 to 4 this afternoon, give or take maybe 10 minutes, and that's another 15-minute affair. And then there'll be a second Goodyear Touring Car Trophy race at 25 past 4. So plenty to look forward to on the live stream, together with all of the Time Attack sessions as well. But the but the weather continues to beat the coastline here in North Wales. And we will therefore take a bit of shelter for the next couple of minutes. But a reminder that the Civic Cup race, the first of the day, is due to start at 1 o'clock. We'll be back for all the build-up for that. We'll see you then.